Hi everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to do the Judge a Book by its cover fantasy book tag that was created by Madison. Madison is also the person who tagged me to do this, so I will definitely link her video where she does this tag down below. Now I'm so happy that she tagged me because I love beautiful book covers and I think that most people of course love them, but I think that I put a little bit more importance on them than most because where I live, if I want to read a book in English, I most probably need to buy it because most libraries here don't have a lot of English books and especially fantasy books, it's not going to happen. So I really need to put money in books if I want to read them. And the big important factor here for me is if I really like the book and if I think that the cover of the book is going to look pretty on my shelves. That's a very shallow reasoning and I know that, but I have so many books on my I'm interested in list that I just need to have something to determine whether or not I'm going to put money in that. So one of the factors is the cover absolutely horrendous? I'm not going to buy it. Now, luckily, I do like a lot of different types of covers, and for me to really dislike a cover, it needs to be pretty bad. So, without further ado, I am going to jump into the first question. And that is, break the ice, show some of your favorite covers. So, I do have a couple laying around me, and I'm going to try to show all of them and explain what I like. So, for instance, this one is one type of book cover that I really enjoy. This screams fantasy. And I know that some people think that these are very cheesy, but I mean, that's the point. You can look at these covers for hours and still find new things that you think are interesting. What I really like for this one specifically is that everything is fantasy. Like the font here as well, it just fits together. And I just like that you have like a scene that's being depicted or a character that you can recognize if you read the book and that you remain invested and can look at the cover for hours and still see new things. I just really like that. I just like if I pick up a fantasy book that you can see that it's fantasy. I know that some people like those minimalistic covers with a lot of white and then one splash of color, and one of those covers, for instance, is the Poppy War. That's an entire trilogy, or the Lycanius trilogy, and I just don't understand how you can like those covers and not like these ones, because these are a lot more pretty in my opinion, and they just tell a story a lot more than just a white cover with one splash of color. Don't like that. But then another type of covers that I do like are more the minimalistic ones, like you can see here. And no, they don't tell a story with their covers, but because the art style is so original and very unique, you can still keep watching them and just look at them and appreciate the art in itself. And for instance, this is a trilogy and they fit together very nicely. I think that the spines are also pretty, so that's something that I also think is pretty important. This is another trilogy. This is historical fiction, but again, the covers fit together perfectly, and it's just a very unique art style that you're going to stay invested in the cover and look at it for a while and just be intrigued by what the story is about. Unfortunately, the spines here I don't really think are that interesting, but you can't have everything, I guess. And then the last one that I want to show here is another one in the same vein, where you just have these three sisters, sister song, so quite logical what this is going to be about, but just because of the art style that I think is really pretty here, really unique, and you have all these shades of blue, this is again a cover that can really hold my attention, and yeah, I really enjoy that. So a different styles of cover I really like, as long as it's not boring. The next question is, what is the absolute best book cover you own? And for this one, I'm going to go with Juliette Marolier's Sibyl's Secret. So this cover is another one that's almost over the top with everything that you can see here. And it goes over the spine until the back of the book, where you have the front cover again, or at least that picture again. This is really the example what I mean when I say you can look at this cover for hours and, you know, still see new things here and just wonder, what is all of this? What does this mean? I think that the colors here are beautiful. This screams spring. I haven't read the book yet, but I'm just immediately drawn in and trying to read it, wanting to read it, because here, as you can see, you have ships in the background, you have a city in the background. So much is going on that, yes, I love this cover. I think it's perfect, and I would actually want to have this just as art without all the letters on it and just have the cover art, because I think this is beautiful. Then the next question is, what is the absolute worst book that you own? And I am going to cheat here and show you a couple of them, because I got to show you all of the best covers I own. Now I want to show all of the worst ones. So this one very quickly, because I already said that I dislike this, and this is the Poppy War. It's just white with orange, and orange is honestly the worst color in the world. Same here for the Licanius trilogy. Now for the Licanius one, I am giving it some credit because at least something is happening here, but white and orange, bad decision in my opinion. And then I do have some others here just to show you that I can appreciate a lot of covers, but something needs to be happening. For example here, Joe Abercrombie, the blade itself, this isn't the cover. This is a background with letters on it, in my opinion. The same here for Jade City by Fonda Lee. I'm not saying that the book is bad. The book can be amazing. I haven't read Jade City yet. But the cover, at least it's green. And green is a pretty cover, but nothing is happening here. And you have all of these letters, but you have just no cover. If this was gone, you wouldn't miss anything. So I don't really understand why people like this. I know that people like this. Some other people have told me that they like it. But yeah. And then this one, Magician by Feist, does a lot of things wrong. You not only have just black and then some letters, but the minimal artwork, if you can call it, that you do see is basically a picture, and it doesn't really tell you anything. It's just boring. And I think that that's the worst mistake you can make. If you make a cover, make it interesting. Even if it's ugly, even if it's cheesy, people are going to look at it. But if it's just some letters, I think that people lose interest pretty easily, and that's just, yeah, same here. I think that I can probably make this cover with paint if I would want to, and that's just not what I'm looking for if I'm buying a book and want to have it on my shelf. Is it really the ugliest cover ever? No, because as I said, if a cover is really ugly, I'm not going to buy it. So I can show you an example of that, but it's definitely not the best cover I have, and you can't say anything positive about it because there's nothing to say. And then this is one, a Dutch cover, the first one for Farseer, and this I just wanted to include because what is this? I mean, if you haven't read Farseer yet, you might think, well, the cover is not beautiful, but it's fine, I guess. But this is the entire Farseer trilogy, and to be honest, this doesn't show what the book is about or what the trilogy is about at all. So for some of the covers, I'm also thinking, has the artist actually read the book or know what the book is about? Or did they just get the information, oh, it's fantasy, so I'm going to draw a wizard. Yeah, that's one of my pet peeves as well. Your cover needs to fit the story, because otherwise, what's the point of a cover? The next question is, show the coolest cover you have that shows a weapon. So this is very fantasy-esque, of course, and I think that most of the covers that I have show a weapon. For example, here you clearly have a weapon, you have swords, but for this one I wanted to go with it only shows a weapon, or the weapon is the most prominent part of the cover. And then I think I will go with Tower Lord by Anthony Ryan, which is the second book in his Raven's Shadow trilogy. So because here you have a bow. Now I also kind of enjoy this cover art, because even though it might look like it's a picture, but it's not. It's actually just very realistic art. And I think that a bow is a weapon that we don't really see a lot on covers. Mostly it's a sword. So this is a little bit more unique, and that's why I love it for covers where it's prominently just a weapon. Because in general, I don't like those covers, because as I said, it really doesn't tell you a lot about the book in itself. But if I have to pick one, it's this one. Another one that I like in that category is Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri. Now, this is one that I normally don't like. In general, this will never make it to my top 10 favorite covers or anything like that, because you have a lot of attention on the letters and the words, and that's something that I don't like with covers. But the sword that is being shown here is very specific for the setting of the book, and in that aspect I do like it, that even though you don't give a lot of information because you just show a weapon, that the choice of weapon is very fitting for the book. So at least there's that. But in general, I don't really like it when weapons are the main prompt that is shown on the cover of a book. The next question is, show the most unique book cover that you have. Now, I do think that I've shown a few, but in general, I don't think that I have a lot of unique covers, but the ones that I do like are these Dutch editions for the Fitz and the Fool trilogy. So this is the last trilogy in the entire realm of the Elderlings, because what I like here is that you have this picture of what's happening, but then you have the surroundings of the cover. That's not just the art or not this picture art, but you have everything else that's really nice in my opinion. So you have here the banner where you have Robin Hobb's name, you have here where he's trying to write, I guess. So I do like how this in general looks, and that you have this art that continues at the back of the book, and that it's pretty consistent for the entire trilogy, if it wants to. Yes. Okay. So I think that that's pretty unique cover art, especially, well, first of all, it's Dutch. So I don't think that these covers are used anywhere else in the world. So I guess that's a plus. And they do look very pretty and, again, pretty old, pretty fantasy-esque on the shelves. So I do like that. So I think that those are unique covers that I like. And then this is a Dutch unique cover that I absolutely detest. And that is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. This is just ugly. It's very unique, but there's a reason why. And this is a little bit in the same vein as what I just showed you with Robin Hobb, where you have this artwork here in the middle, and then you have things around it, but it just doesn't really fit the Final Empire. You would almost think that this is some sort of sci-fi, and it's just very ugly. First of all, you have like a picture-esque in the middle. I don't like that artwork at all. But then everything around it, yeah, it's special for sure. And I don't think that they use this in any other country, luckily. Unfortunately, I also can't complete that trilogy because everything is out of print. Because even though it's ugly, I do think it's special enough that I would like to have it on the shelves. So that's another unique cover that I have, unfortunately, almost. Next up, I have Do Judge a Book by its cover, show a book that was as good as the cover let you believe that it was going to be, or show a book cover that does a great job in catching the vibe of the book, what the book is about, etc. And for this, I chose The Story of Silence by Alex Myers. So this is a book about a person who was born as a girl, but they were raised as a boy because that way they can inherit the kingdom from their father. And in the beginning, they don't even know that they were born as a girl. They think that they are a boy. But then as time progresses, they don't really feel like they fit anywhere. So this is definitely a story that is about discovering yourself, about gender identity, and everything in that sense. And I do think that the cover shows this perfectly because you have a knight, you have like a sword, you have this castle. So you have a lot of things that are considered being very masculine. But then you have the color pink, which is considered a very feminine color. So I do like that contrast, and I think that that fits what the story is about perfectly. There are some other examples, of course. The Emperor's Blade, for example, has a very bleak cover. You have our three main characters on the cover, and you can definitely see that one is more of a priest, one is a warrior, one, well, you don't really see that one is a politician, but you definitely see those different things. And I do like that you can see this, and this is what I mean that my favorite covers often have that. And another example, and this is a book that I actually disliked, but the cover told me what it was about, and that is The Ally of Law by Brandon Sanderson. So I disliked the entire Mistborn Era 2 trilogy or series because a fourth book is coming out, but at least you can see that it's a Western, you can see guns, you can see these two individuals who play a very important role, you can see a train, so you can see that it's like industrial era. So I do like that, even though I didn't like the book. The cover shows what time period it is, they show you the main characters, they show you a part of the plot even. So yes, another book that shows you what the book is about, or a cover that shows you what the book is about perfectly. Next up, I'm going to show you a book that I bought blind simply by how stunning the cover was. And this is true for a lot of the books that I have on my shelves, because often it's the cover that draws me in, and then I read the synopsis or the premise and decide if I like it or not. But for some books, I really don't know what it's about. I just buy it because the cover looks beautiful. And The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon is definitely one of those. I think this is also the one that I'm regretting that I bought it a little bit, because when I started reading it, it's really not that amazing, but at least the cover art is beautiful, and the spine. So often when the spine isn't that nice, I'm a little bit disappointed, because in the end the spine is usually what you see. But here I really like the cover. Unfortunately, I still don't know what the book is about, and I DNF'd it like 50 pages in, so I am going to try to read it again, but this shows that you shouldn't always trust the cover, and always at least look at the premise and see if it's something that you would find interesting. Next up is embarrassing book covers. So show a book that you think was great, but the cover is a little bit cringy. Now, to be honest, I don't really have very cringe-worthy covers, because as I said in the beginning, if I think a cover is horrendous, I'm not going to buy that book. But I think that this one comes closest, and to be honest, I haven't read it yet, so I don't even know if it's good. But I think it is. And that is Kashiel's Dart by Jacqueline Carey. So it isn't too bad, it's fine. But I think that some people might think that I'm reading erotica, and that's fine. If you want to read erotica, you do you, but I wouldn't want a lot of people in public thinking that I read that. So, and in one hand, it does fit the story, because this is about a sex worker, so it's fine, but it might give the wrong idea to certain people, and that's why I think that's the cringiest book that I have, or book cover that I have. So if that's the worst, I think I'm fine. And then the last question is, show all of your special editions and fancy books. Now, to be honest, I don't really have any, because as I said before, if I want to read a book, I need to buy it, and I'm not going to buy a special edition if I don't even know if I'm going to like the book or not. And then once I've read it and I decided that I like it, I usually don't like it enough to spend more money, because I already read the book. I don't do rereads that often, so that's not going to happen. And unpopular opinion, I don't really like special editions most of the time. For instance, those cloth-bound or leather-bound Mistborn books by Brandon Sanderson, or even the Stormlight Archive books, I don't think that's beautiful. A lot of people say like, oh yeah, they look like fancy library editions of an encyclopedia, and that's true, but that's not what they are. So I don't like that. I like those cheesy, cheap fantasy covers more than anything, more than fancy editions. So if I would buy a fancy edition, it would probably be for the artwork inside, other than the look that it gives on my shelves, because in general I don't like them. So for this question, I'm just going to show some Dutch covers. So for instance here, these are my Witcher books, and I do think that these are prettier than the ones that, you know, the UK or the US editions, because here, yeah, I really do like it. And for this one, this is the prologue, so I can't really say for this one, but for the other ones, for example, this is Baptism of Fire, and you have a bat on the cover, and that fits the story. So I really do like that, and I like how all of them fit together on the shelves, that you have that emblem and that you have different colors on them. So even though these are quite minimalistic covers, I like them. Of the minimalistic covers, these are the best of them, and I do think that these are the best Witcher editions that you can get. Another example of books that I think are really beautiful, these are the Rainwild Chronicle books by Robin Hobb, and maybe the author or the artist was a little bit lazy, because the art on the front is basically the same for all of them, but with different colors. But all together on a shelf, they do look pretty. And yeah, I just like that. I also like the font, which again screams fantasy. So all four of them together, here you can see the other two, I do like that. So those are some of my Dutch editions that I think are prettier than the US or the UK ones. No special editions, but at least something different. But please let me know if you actually like the Dutch editions better for The Witcher and for Robin Hobb, or if you prefer the US and the UK ones. So now that I went through all of the prompts, it's time for me to tag some people. And I'm going to tag a couple books, Catherine Reads and Paperback Empire. If you're not tagged yourself, but you still want to do the tag, then please consider yourself tagged by me as well, because I'm always interested and excited to see more beautiful covers. So that was it for me. Please let me know in the comments down below if you agree with my preference of book covers, so those 80s, 90s, cheesy, typical fantasy covers, or if you enjoy the dull, white covers with one splurge of color more. To each their own. As always, I hope that you enjoyed the video, and see you next time. Bye!